Seated with Christ. To be seated with Christ in heavenly places signifies the delegation of authority. Through the process of redemption, we are given a divine opportunity to share in the kingdom rule of the Lord and entrusted with a realm of authority signified by the seat or place of dominion. Naturally, that designation is not randomly given to an infant in the faith without having grown in the stature of Christ. That is not to say this position is in any way earned or merited. Rather, it is to signify a place of growth and maturity evident from the work of the Holy Spirit. This process molds us into the image of Christ, making us capable of maintaining this spiritual position without corrupting or prostituting its great spiritual value. Those who overcome are granted permission to sit with Him on His throne as He overcame to sit with the Father. There is a process of triumphing over spiritual deception and resistance that must be attained in order to qualify for this high office. It is by grace that it is provided to the bride of Christ. Yielding to the work of grace positions the bride to share in His nature and qualify for this heavenly position. Put plainly, it is not a position that we flippantly approach by merely walking the aisle of the church and reciting a prayer. It is by individuals encountering the Lord of glory and being changed from glory to glory into His image. From this place of union and fellowship, the overcomers are seated and granted dominion and authority to rule with Him. This is an ancient issue that goes back to the original rebellion of Satan and his desire to be seated with God to rule and reign. What Satan could not obtain through pride and rebellion, the Lord is freely offering to us by virtue of His sacrificial offering and work of redemption. We are presently living in the transition from the church age into the manifestation of kingdom reality. There is a tremendous display of truth coming as manna for this day to transform and prepare a body of people to fully engage the kingdom realm of heaven and manifest that reality in the earth. Even during the dark ages when the written word was inaccessible to the masses, the living Word manifested Himself to those who were genuinely seeking Him from a pure heart with right motives. Many historical accounts are recorded to validate this reality. The Apostle Paul was granted a great privilege to be a messenger in his day to present the bread of life to his generation. As a reward for that place of leadership and sacrifice, he is given the honor of presenting the overcomers of his day to the Lord as a pure virgin. He said, 2 Corinthians 11:2, "For I am jealous over you with godly jealousy, for I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ." That same privilege is given to the messengers of each generation, charged with the commission and mandate to present the manna of the day to the people of God. There are messengers sent to each age with a divine mandate and deposit of truth that is like a fire locked up in their bones that must be expressed and demonstrated. These are the stars in the hand of the Lord to present the revelation of heaven to the church. This present day has been identified with the promise of an unprecedented release of heavenly manna through many messengers to groom a people to bear the likeness and nature of Christ. It will be a multiplication of the light given throughout the 7 church ages. Isaiah 30:26. "Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord bindeth up the breach of His people, and healeth the stroke of their wound." This future bride could not be just an ordinary woman. She had to be of the same heritage and lineage as Isaac, became bone of his bone, and flesh of his flesh. This is the perfect, typical scenario to be executed in this day as well. There is emerging to be the loyal and faithful servants who are trustworthy stewards of the mysteries and power of God to secure a radiant and passionate bride for the Lord. Daniel was shown the great deposit of mysteries to be unfolded in the days identified as the end time, but was not allowed to articulate the revelation that he saw. Rather, it was reserved along with the eminent secrets that John observed and was required to seal. Daniel 12:4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Revelations 10:4. And when the seven thunders had uttered their voices, I was about to write. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Seal up those things which the seven thunders uttered, and write them not. The manna is described in the Scriptures as the bread of angels. It is associated with the provision of heaven for the children of Israel as they wandered in the wilderness of Sinai. It was the perfect sustenance providing all that they needed. There was not one feeble or sick among them while they shared in this bread from heaven. God spoke this to me. It was a symbolic representation of the person who would identify himself as the bread who has come from heaven, providing all that we need. Yes, I believe it is for provision and a sign from God. Those who eat of this bread shall live forever without difficulty or weakness. This is further verified in stating that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. It is not an optional duty, but a mandated responsibility by the grace of God to be identified with those who overcome and share in the blessings and rewards of the victorious ones. The revelation of His Word is the bread from heaven. It is the perfect manna that will absolutely sustain us in perfection. Throughout each church age, portions of the heavenly manna was delegated. The early apostles were entrusted with great revelation and insight into kingdom mysteries, and a segment of people embraced that revelation. However, compromise entered the corporate body in with an organizational spirit that severed the free flow of manna from heaven. Only small measures of the bread of life came for years until the promises of Joel were remembered by the Lord. Joel 2:25. And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm, and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. The process of progressive restoration began with the Great Reformation. We are now standing on the threshold of the generation long foreseen by the prophets and patriarchs throughout the ages. The saints of this day will not only be granted access to the manna of heaven and divine mysteries, but also the grace to apprehend and experience the reality. This will be the generation to whom the Lord comes by placing His foot on the land and the sea, clothed in a rainbow, with the open book in His hand. For many generations the book has been sealed, but the end-time generation has the unimaginable promise of living in the day which the Lord Himself will break the seals. It is His promise to give the now open book to His chosen ones, to be eaten and consumed by a generation hungry for the reality of heaven.